we didn't have the opportunities to do certain things because we were so caught up thinking, okay, after Miss USA, we'll move to LA and we'll become, famous because our agent is going to book us for XYZ, and then we'll somehow get on a reality TV.
Erika Kirk just got caught in another lie, and this one doesn't just add a wrinkle to her story, it unravels the whole thing. New receipts just surfaced showing Erika was already standing on a pageant stage back in 2009, years before the 2012 Miss Arizona competition she has publicly described as her first introduction to the pageant world. And the person standing right there alongside her, that name is going to make a lot of people do a double take. Lindsay Halligan. The same Lindsay Halligan that President Trump appointed as interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia in September 2025, an appointment a federal judge later ruled was illegal. Two women competing for a crown in Colorado in 2009, both ending up in positions of serious power and influence by 2025. One running a major conservative political organization after her husband's passing. One placed in one of the most powerful legal seats in American law enforcement. And they were on the same stage together 16 years earlier. Now let's get into exactly what Erika said publicly about her pageant history, because the specific nature of this lie matters, and it reveals just how carefully her public image has been put together. In interviews, Erika described entering the Miss Arizona pageant almost like an accident, something that came in the mail, a casual decision, a first step into a world she'd never been part of before. She framed 2012 as her introduction to pageantry, as if she just stumbled into it out of nowhere. But a photograph from the 2010 Miss Colorado USA beauty pageant held in late 2009 tells a completely different story. There's Erika, standing in a lineup on stage, wearing a blue dress, fully competing in a pageant circuit 3 full years before she claims she took her very first step into that world.
I was living in China and doing a lot of work with the victims from trafficking, work with an orphanage in Romania.
This isn't a small timeline mix-up. This is a deliberate misrepresentation of when and how she entered the pageant world, and the fact that Lindsay Halligan was right there with her takes this way beyond a simple personal history correction. The Halligan connection deserves a hard, careful look, because the overlap between these two women is striking enough to stop you in your tracks. Both Erika and Lindsay are roughly the same age. Both graduated from Regis University, the same private Jesuit college in Colorado. Both have long, documented ties to Trump and his circle. Both entered the pageant world at the same time, in the same competitive circuit, and both landed in positions of major institutional power in 2025. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern! These weren't just two women whose backgrounds happened to cross paths. Their professional rises followed the exact same unconventional playbook. Lindsay Halligan was handed one of the most consequential legal positions in the country, interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, a seat with jurisdiction over some of the most sensitive federal cases in the American legal system. She had no prior experience that would conventionally qualify someone for that role, a detail the federal judge who ruled the appointment illegal apparently found very significant. The appointment skipped normal merit-based channels entirely. It was a direct presidential installation, fast, unconventional, and legally problematic. And Erika Kirk, with zero prior experience running a major political organization, was installed as CEO of Turning Point USA just 8 days after Charlie's passing, also through a process that bypassed conventional succession planning, relying on an audio recording that cannot be independently authenticated as its basis for legitimacy. Two women, same pageant circuit, same college, same Trump-connected world.
Erika Franzway, 23, Arizona.
Erika was once mistaken for Cameron Diaz, which led to an invitation aboard a luxurious yacht. Sadly, she was booted when they realized it wasn't Cameron Diaz. You're not on a yacht when you're Arizona.
Both placed into positions of serious institutional power through experience bypassing processes that immediately raised eyebrows from everyone paying attention. That parallel is not something you can just wave away as coincidence. Then there's Candace Owens, who has now publicly confirmed what the emerging documentary record suggests about the pageant timeline. According to Candace, Erika wanted to be famous her entire life, meaning the pageant participation was never a casual whim or a random piece of mail. It was the expression of a deeply held ambition that had been burning since she was young. Candace also pointed directly to Erika's mother, Lori Fran, as a driving force behind Erika's entry into the pageant world, and raised serious questions about Lori's own background, suggesting she has deep ties to intelligence and intelligence-adjacent communities. Lori is also a former model, which means the pageant to modeling to public platform pipeline that Erika traveled is one her mother had already navigated before her. The framework for using physical presentation and competitive visibility to build access to powerful social circles wasn't something Erika figured out on her own. It was potentially something she grew up around and was shaped by from a very early age. A resurfaced interview appears to confirm exactly that, showing a younger Erika openly describing her ambitions for fame and her dreams of becoming a Hollywood actress. This is not the picture of a woman who stumbled reluctantly into public life. This is someone who wanted exactly what she eventually got and had been working toward it through specific, strategic channels for far longer than the official story has ever let on.
Erika has been involved in pageants from the very beginning. Her mother is definitely the person who pushed that. I actually do believe that Erika loved basketball. There's no question she plays basketball. But this idea that she didn't want it is just not true. It's so objectively not true. Erika, without question, and anybody who's being objective and honest and looking at her history of the people that she dated and the people that she wanted to be in close proximity to, can guarantee to you that this girl wanted to be famous, like very badly wanted to be famous one way or the other. And one of her exes was very clear. He said to me, I was warned by another person in beauty pageant world that girl will do anything to get to the top and her mother will do anything.
Now, let's talk about the Corcoran Group, because this is one of the most specifically documented and most consistently overlooked connections in the entire Erika Kirk story. In 2018, Erika began working as a real estate agent for the Corcoran Group. On the surface, it looked like a straightforward career move, a professional opportunity that made sense given her connections and her ambitions in New York. Unremarkable, routine, easy to scroll past. But the Corcoran Group appears in the Epstein files over 100 times, not once or twice as a passing mention, but over 100 documented references. Those 100+ references in the Epstein files aren't just background noise, they tell a very specific story. Multiple emails in those files show Corcoran agents reaching out to Epstein directly, offering him properties and facilitating real estate transactions. And Ella Lehman, who was serving as CEO of the Corcoran Group during the exact period Erika worked there, also appears in those same files. The CEO of her employer was connected to Epstein's documented network, and Erika was working there during exactly that window, bringing the organization's entire institutional web into her professional orbit at a moment when that network was still fully operational. Now, this does not prove any specific wrongdoing on Erika's part. That distinction needs to be clearly maintained. But it does place her professional history in direct, documented contact with one of the most consequential and far-reaching criminal networks ever uncovered in American public life. And her complete silence on the Epstein files since Charlie's passing, despite his deeply documented commitment to seeing those files released and unredacted, is not something that can be explained away by grief or political caution. The Crosby Street connection adds yet another layer that researchers have been carefully documenting. A TripAdvisor review Erika left for a bar at 79 Crosby Street in New York described it as her company's regular lunch spot. And that same location appears in the Epstein files. The question nobody has answered yet: what company was Erika referring to? Her official professional history during that period doesn't include a corporate employer that would naturally make that bar a regular destination, and neither Erika nor anyone representing her has addressed it publicly. These are specific, documentable, verifiable facts, not speculation. A real location, a real TripAdvisor review with her name on it, a real appearance of that location in actual Epstein file documentation. The connection between these facts demands an explanation, and that explanation has not come. Now let's place her relationship history against everything this story has already established, because the pattern becomes significantly more revealing when you line it up against the pageant background and the intelligence-adjacent family connections. Candace has pointed out that every man Erika was connected to before Charlie was either a public figure with status and visibility, or someone with direct access to powerful institutional networks, or both. Tyler Strange provided entertainment industry access. Josh Harrelson provided elite athlete social currency. JT Massey took that even further. Tyler Bauer opened the door directly into inaugural circles and major conservative political infrastructure. Cabot Phillips was already embedded inside Turning Point USA itself. And each step in that progression moved Erika closer to the specific world Charlie Kirk occupied and controlled. By the time Tyler Bauer introduced Erika and Charlie after months of, by Tyler's own account, coaching Charlie on how to approach her and positioning Erika in Charlie's mind as exactly the kind of person he should be with the progression, had arrived at its logical destination. The man with the platform, the organization, the institutional influence, and the community of millions of engaged supporters. Charlie was simultaneously the most politically significant and the most personally inexperienced of any of Erika's connections by his own admission. Erika was his first for everything. First kiss, first real date, first romantic relationship of any kind. A 24-year-old national political figure who had built one of the most significant conservative organizations in America, but had never once navigated the emotional vulnerabilities that come with romantic attachment. That combination, enormous public significance paired with complete personal inexperience in exactly the domain where Erika had been operating strategically for years, is precisely the kind of exploitable vulnerability that the word honeypot describes. The traditional wife pivot, which happened with striking speed and completeness after the marriage, is something a growing number of people are now re-examining with fresh eyes, and everything that has come out since makes it impossible to look away. The transformation of Erika's public persona is one of the most dramatic and most suspicious image overhauls anyone has seen in recent memory. From aspiring actress and social climber to devoted traditional Christian wife who believes women should stay home and center their lives around their family, the shift was so complete and so rapid that it raises serious, legitimate questions about whether any of it was ever real. Interview clips that survive from before her relationship with Charlie show someone with explicit Hollywood ambitions and a clear appetite for public recognition and personal platform. The Erika who appeared in music videos, who did couple shoots for magazines, who called relationships transactional at a women's conference and talked about the wife being the neck that controls the head, that Erika and the traditional wife Erika occupy a pretty significant distance from each. Other that the timeline of her relationship with Charlie simply does not explain. People can change. Growth is real. Genuine conviction can develop in ways that look dramatic from the outside, but feel completely authentic from within, and those possibilities have to be acknowledged honestly. But in the specific context of everything else that has been documented, the false timeline, the pageant history that predates her own claims, the Corcoran connection, the Crosby Street review, the Lindsay Halligan overlap, the silence on Epstein, the traditional wife persona looks far less like genuine transformation and far more like a specific costume adopted for a specific audience for a specific purpose. The 8-day succession timeline remains one of the most questioned elements of this entire situation, and for good reason. 8 days is an extraordinarily compressed window for the most consequential organizational leadership decision in Turning Point USA's history. Charlie passed on September 10, 2025. Erika was installed as CEO by September 18th. 8 days. The justification offered was an audio recording played at AmFest 2025 in which Charlie allegedly states he would want Erika to take over if anything ever happened to him. That recording has been questioned publicly and specifically by Candace Owens, who noted that while the organization claims to have video of Charlie making that same statement, they have not released it, offering only the audio, whose authenticity cannot be independently verified. Candace's observation was precise. If the video exists and clearly shows Charlie making this statement, releasing it would settle the question instantly. The decision to withhold the video while playing only the audio is not a decision that people with legitimate succession documentation would make. Now place that 8-day installation against everything. This story has already established a woman whose relationship with the man she succeeded was built through a network of arranged access, strategic positioning, and documented false narratives about its organic origins. If Erika's entry into Charlie's life was directed rather than accidental, then the smoothness of her transition into organizational control is not evidence of legitimate succession planning. It is evidence that the succession was always the objective and the preceding years were simply the preparation. The hot mic moment that surfaced shortly after Charlie's passing, where Erika was recorded apparently celebrating merchandise sales and describing Charlie's memorial as the event of the century in a tone that struck multiple witnesses as completely inconsistent with genuine grief, remains one of the most specifically damaging pieces of documentation in this entire story. Less than 2 weeks after losing her husband, the emotional register captured in that recording sounds nothing like someone in the acute phase of devastating personal loss. Candace Owens described it in terms that have been widely quoted and widely felt, calling it one of the coldest things she had ever encountered. The combination of subject matter merchandise metrics, attendance numbers, organizational performance data delivered in something closer to an excited business review than raw grief is something people are simply not letting go of. Because it is so visibly, so specifically inconsistent with the narrative of a woman whose heart was broken by the violent loss of the man she loved, Charlie Kirk's final years were organized around 2 specific commitments he pursued with documented passion and urgency: releasing the unredacted Epstein files and preventing military conflict with Iran. These were not minor policy positions or casual opinions. These were things Charlie described as urgent moral imperatives, things he was actively working on both publicly and behind the scenes, things he was willing to take personal and professional risk to advance. The Epstein files commitment is documented across years of public statements, private communications shared by people who knew him personally, and organizational priorities described by insiders. He believed the American public deserved to know what was in those files. He believed the people named in those files deserved accountability. He believed the suppression of that information was itself an act of institutional corruption, and that his platform had a responsibility to fight it. And his position on Iran is documented across 6 years of consistent, specific, increasingly urgent public statements. From 2019, when Charlie wrote about the dangers of a potential ground war, through 2020, when he was warning that America's future was not in the Middle East, through April 2025, when he described the prospect of war as a catastrophic mistake and a potential calamity, through June 2025, when he physically walked into the White House to plead with the administration not to launch the conflict, and when he ran a poll on X where nearly 90% of his own followers said no to US involvement in Israel's war against Iran. These were the things Charlie spent his final years fighting for. These were the commitments he maintained under pressure. These were the positions he held at personal and professional cost. And Erika will not touch either one of them. The silence on the Epstein files. The silence on Iran. She posted in support of the very military operation that Charlie called a catastrophic mistake. The community Charlie built around these specific commitments is now watching the person claiming to carry his legacy actively contradict those commitments in public, and the silence on the questions people are raising is just as loud as the silence on the issues themselves. The complete picture that emerges from placing every documented thread in its proper relationship to every other is one that Erika has never been asked to address in any forum that requires specific, documented, verifiable answers. The pageant history that predates her own claims. The Lindsay Halligan overlap from that same pageant circuit, the same college, the same connected world. The Corcoran Group's 100 plus appearances in the Epstein files. The Crosby Street Bar and its Epstein connection. The documented succession of strategically positioned relationships. The false 5-year celibacy claim. The transactional relationship admission in her own words. The head and neck confession and the immediate panic that followed. The 8-day succession timeline backed by an unverifiable audio recording. The hot mic celebration of merchandise numbers less than 2 weeks after Charlie's passing. The silence on the 2 issues Charlie spent his final years fighting for. None of these threads exist in isolation. They connect across time, across institutions, across individuals into a pattern that requires either an innocent explanation for every single component simultaneously, or a framework that accounts for all of them at once. And the framework that accounts for all of them at once is the one that Candace Owens, Joe Rogan, multiple insiders, and a growing community of researchers have been building publicly for months. The receipts are everywhere. The timeline is documented. The connections are real. And the questions that need answering are not going away. They are multiplying. Because every time a new piece of documentation surfaces, every photo, every archived review, every resurfaced video, every leaked account, the picture gets clearer rather than more complicated. And that clarity is not moving in Erika's favor. If this story has you connecting dots you didn't even know existed, drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is just getting started. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the time because there is a lot more coming and you do not want to miss what surfaces next. Hit that like button, Share this with someone who needs to see it, and we'll see you in the next one.